The psychology of being unable to say no is deeply rooted in the fear of rejection and a quiet, subconscious belief that love has to be earned through constant availability. For many people, refusing a request feels like breaking a relationship, creating conflict, or revealing something bad about themselves. In their internal world, no doesn't mean I have a boundary. It means I'm selfish, I'm cold, I'm ungrateful, or worst of all, I might be abandoned. So they choose the safest option in the moment. Agreement, even when it costs them their energy, time, and self-respect. This pattern often forms early in life. A child learns that they get warmth, safety, or praise when they are compliant, easy, and convenient. Maybe they were rewarded for being mature, quiet, helpful, or not causing problems. Maybe they watched adults explode, withdraw, or punish when someone disagreed. Over time, the child's nervous system connects approval with survival, and that becomes the blueprint for adulthood. If you want to feel safe, you don't resist. You adapt. You keep people happy. You become useful. But there's a hidden cost that accumulates slowly. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you train your brain to ignore your own signals. Your body learns that your needs are negotiable, but other people's needs are urgent. You start living in a constant low-level tension, scanning the room for expectations, anticipating disappointment before it even happens. And eventually you become the person everyone relies on, everyone asks, everyone leans on, while inside you feel strangely empty, resentful, and exhausted. Now let's start with a simple scene that almost everyone recognizes. Your phone buzzes. Someone asks for a favor. It's not even a big one. Can you help me quickly? Can you cover for me? Can you do this one thing? And before your mind finishes processing what they said, your mouth replies, "Sure." Then, 5 seconds later, your stomach drops. You remember your own plans, your own fatigue, your own limits, but it's too late. You already agreed, and now you feel trapped. That exact moment is where this whole psychology lives. You didn't say yes because you wanted to. You said yes because your brain chose relief over truth. People often think this is just being nice, but true kindness is a choice. People-pleasing is a reflex. When you can't say no, it's rarely about generosity. It's about anxiety management. The yes is a quick way to shut down the uncomfortable emotions that show up when someone might be displeased with you. In that moment, your nervous system doesn't prioritize your future well-being. Prioritizes immediate safety. The fastest path to safety is agreement. If we zoom in psychologically, there are a few common beliefs hiding under the surface. One is, if I disappoint people, they will leave. Another is, if I set boundaries, I will be seen as difficult. Another is, I'm only valuable when I'm useful. And that last one is a dangerous identity, because once your worth depends on being needed, you can never rest. You can never be neutral. You can never simply exist. You have to constantly earn your place by giving, fixing, saving, supporting, or absorbing. This is why many people who can't say no become emotional caretakers. They feel responsible for other people's comfort, not just their tasks, but their emotions. If someone looks sad, they feel guilty. If someone looks annoyed, they panic. If someone is disappointed, they automatically assume they did something wrong. Their brain interprets another person's discomfort as a threat, so they rush to solve it. They smooth the mood. They patch the silence. They sacrifice their boundary to restore peace. And peace is the key word here. For some people, saying yes isn't about making others happy. It's about avoiding emotional turbulence. Conflict, even mild conflict, can feel unbearable. A boundary creates tension. A refusal creates uncertainty. And uncertainty triggers fear. So the person chooses the strategy they learned long ago. Make it okay again. Make them okay again. Make the world calm again. This is also why they struggle to ask for help. Because deep inside, they don't believe they have the right to take up space. They've been trained to be the one who gives, not receives. When you live like this for years, you begin to feel like your needs are an inconvenience. You apologize for existing. You rewrite your desires into something smaller. You don't say, "I need rest." You say, "It's fine, I'm okay." You don't say, "That hurt me." You say, "It's nothing." And you don't say, "No," you say, "Sure, I can." Now let's talk about the brain mechanism, because this is where it becomes scary how automatic it is. In the moment someone asks something of you, your brain does a lightning-fast social calculation. The amygdala, the part involved in threat detection, reacts not only to physical danger but also to social danger, rejection, disapproval, exclusion. Your body reads a potential no as a risk. You feel tension in your chest, a tight throat, a pressure behind the eyes, a nervous smile. That is your nervous system preparing for social threat. Then your brain searches for the quickest way to reduce that sensation. And it finds the easiest tool: compliance. When you say yes, your body gets a tiny dose of relief. That relief is important. It's like a reward. Your nervous system learns. Saying yes makes the anxiety go away. And because your brain loves fast rewards, that pattern becomes stronger every time. This is how people-pleasing becomes addictive. Not in the dramatic sense, but in the behavioral sense. You keep repeating it because it works short-term. You avoid the awkward moment. You avoid the guilt. You avoid the possibility of someone thinking badly of you. But the price is delayed, and the brain is terrible at caring about delayed consequences. Your brain thinks in the moment. Your life pays the bill later. And later looks like burnout. Later looks like resentment. Later looks like losing your identity. You wake up one day and realize you don't even know what you want anymore, because your entire life is built around other people's needs. Here's what makes it even more complicated. People who can't say no often don't look weak. They can look extremely competent. They can look like leaders, like the reliable one, like the responsible one, like the person who has it together. But inside, they are running on fear. They don't help because they feel strong. They help because they feel unsafe if they don't. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine someone at work who always says yes. Their boss asks them to take one more task. They smile and agree. A coworker asks them to cover a shift. They agree. A friend asks them to handle something last minute. They agree. At first, people praise them. "You're amazing. You're so helpful." That praise becomes another reward. It feeds the identity. "I'm the good one. I'm the reliable one." But over time, the requests increase, the respect decreases, and the person begins to feel used. And here's the painful truth. Many people won't stop taking from you until you stop offering. Not because they're evil, but because humans adapt to what is allowed. If you train the world that your boundaries don't exist, the world will behave like they don't. This is the part that hurts to accept, because it destroys the victim story. It forces a new perspective. Maybe they're not the only problem. Maybe I've been giving them permission. And that realization can create anger. But anger is not bad here. Anger is the nervous system announcing, a boundary has been crossed. Anger is a signal that you matter. The tragedy is when people suppress that anger for years because they're afraid of being seen as rude. So what happens when anger is suppressed? It doesn't disappear. It turns inward. It becomes tension, headaches, emotional numbness, cynicism, irritability, or a deep feeling of being trapped. And sometimes it erupts in the worst way. A sudden explosion over something small. People pleasers often shock others when they finally snap. Everyone says, "I didn't know you felt this way." But the truth is, they didn't even know how to show it earlier. Now we should talk about the childhood blueprint more directly, because it's the engine behind this. Many people pleasers grew up in environments where love felt conditional. Maybe they had to perform to be noticed. Maybe they had to be good to avoid punishment. Maybe their emotions were dismissed. Maybe they were told, "Don't be dramatic, stop crying, don't cause problems." And so they learned to shrink. Some grew up with emotionally unpredictable caregivers. When a parent is moody, critical, or unstable, the child becomes a mind reader. They monitor every tone, every expression. They try to prevent conflict before it begins. This creates hypervigilance, a constant scanning of other people's moods. In adulthood, this becomes, I can't say no because I can feel them getting upset. And the person's whole body reacts as if that upset is dangerous. Other people pleasers come from families where they became the helper, the responsible child, the little therapist, the one who listened, the one who supported. They learned that their role is to carry emotional weight. And when that becomes your identity, saying no feels like betrayal. You don't just refuse a request, you refuse your purpose. But here's the psychological trap. If you only feel worthy when you're helpful, you will unconsciously create situations where you have to keep proving your worth. You'll attract people who need saving. You'll stay in dynamics where you're overgiving. You'll choose relationships where your value is measured by sacrifice. And then you'll wonder why you feel drained all the time. Now let's address the most confusing part. Why saying no feels physically hard. A lot of people describe it as their throat closing. Their voice disappears. Their heart races. They feel guilt like a weight. That's not weakness. That's conditioning. Your nervous system has learned that boundaries equal danger, and it reacts accordingly. You're not dealing with a logical decision. You're dealing with a survival response. That's why advice like, just say no doesn't work. It ignores the biology. To change this pattern, you don't just need confidence. You need nervous system retraining. You need to teach your body that discomfort is survivable. That someone being unhappy with you is not a catastrophe. That silence after a refusal won't kill you. That disappointment is not abandonment. And this is where real transformation begins. Because the goal isn't to become cold. The goal is to become free. To help when you truly choose to help, not when you're forced by fear. So how do you break the pattern? First, you must learn to recognize your real yes. A real yes feels grounded, feels calm. It has no bitterness attached. It doesn't require you to betray yourself. A fake yes feels urgent, feels pressured, feels like you're escaping guilt. If you start listening, your body will tell you which one it is. Second, you have to create a pause. People-pleasing happens fast. You need a gap between request and response. Even one sentence can change your life. Let me think about it. That sentence is a boundary. It gives your brain time to process. It stops your automatic reflex. It allows your logical mind to enter the conversation. Third, you need replacement phrases that feel safe but still honest. Not aggressive, not dramatic, just clear. I can't take that on right now. I'm not available. I can help later, but not today. I have to focus on my own tasks. A boundary doesn't need to be a fight. It can be a calm statement. Fourth, expect the guilt. This is critical. If you think guilt means you did something wrong, you'll go back to yes. But guilt often just means you changed a pattern. When you've lived as the easy one, your brain associates boundaries with danger. So guilt shows up as resistance. It's like withdrawal from an old coping strategy. And then comes the most powerful skill, learning to tolerate someone's disappointment. This is the graduation level. Because the truth is, some people will not like your boundaries, especially those who benefit from your lack of them. They may call you selfish. They may act hurt. They may pressure you. And this is where people pleasers collapse, because their nervous system screams, fix it. But fixing it is the old prison. Freedom means staying calm while someone else feels something. That doesn't mean you become cruel. It means you stop taking responsibility for emotions that aren't yours to manage. You stop confusing empathy with obedience. You also need to understand something. Healthy relationships survive boundaries. Unhealthy ones depend on your silence. If someone only loves you when you always agree, that was never love. It was convenience. Real closeness is built on honesty, not on sacrifice. Real intimacy requires the right to say no without fear of punishment. Now, let me give you one more example, because it shows how subtle this can be. Imagine a friend who always vents to you. They call you late at night every time they're stressed. You listen, you support, you carry them, and you tell yourself, I'm just being a good friend. But your sleep is ruined. Your mood is ruined. Your life starts revolving around their emotions. Eventually, you feel resentment and then guilt for feeling it. A boundary here might sound like, I care about you, but I can't talk about heavy things late at night. I can call you tomorrow. That's not rejection. That's sustainability. But a people pleaser hears their own boundary as cruelty because they confuse sacrifice with loyalty. Here's the truth. Sacrificing yourself doesn't make you a better person. It makes you an exhausted person. And the world doesn't reward exhaustion with love. It rewards it with more demands. So the ending of this story isn't about becoming someone who says no to everything. It's about becoming someone who doesn't abandon themselves. Because every time you say yes to something that hurts you, you are teaching your mind that you don't matter. And every time you say no with calm confidence, you are teaching your nervous system a new reality. I can be loved and still have boundaries. If you've been the person who can't say no, you're not broken. You're trained. And what was trained can be retrained. It will feel uncomfortable at first. You might shake. You might overthink. You might replay the conversation for hours. But each time you survive that discomfort, something powerful happens inside you. Your brain learns, I didn't lose everything. I didn't get abandoned. I didn't die. I just set a limit. And little by little, you start to recover your identity. You start to hear your own preferences again. You begin to feel what you actually want, not what you think others expect. You stop living in reaction mode. You stop negotiating your existence. You become a person with a spine, not a person with a script. So if you needed permission to start practicing this, here it is. You are allowed to disappoint people. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to have boundaries without explaining them like a courtroom defense. And the people who truly belong in your life will adjust. They might not always like it, but they will respect it. Because the most honest form of love is not endless giving. It's the ability to stay real, even when it's uncomfortable. And the moment you learn to say no without fear, you don't just protect your time. You protect your soul.